How's everybody doing? Rob lent me his Borealis Portus Cale to take a look at. I've never had my hands on a Borealis of any kind. This one it's a cool diver. I mean, it's not maybe a watch I don't know about. It's not really like a homage to anything. I like the case design of the watch. I like the 4 o'clock crown of the watch. I prefer 4 o'clock crowns on anything over a 3 o'clock if I can, or I'll take a 9 o'clock if that's offered. The watch has good dimensions. I don't remember exactly what they were. It looks to be about 42 to me. And I'm going to say it's real close to probably 49 or 50 from lug to lug. And it's got a 22 millimeter lug width. The bracelet, it reminds me a lot of my Edox Hydra Sub that I had. It feels like it's really well built and it's got good flex to it as far as how it wraps on your wrist. Those are like my initial impressions of the watch when I first put it on. But the watch itself, I like the metal bezel. I think this is anodizing. I don't believe it's PVD coated. But it is 120 click bezel. And if any of you have watched Rob's videos, you already know this information. I just wanted to get my hands on it and see what it's like. There's no back play, and it locks up positive anywhere you put it. This one does have the Miyota, however you want to pronounce it, 90-15 movement in it. A lot of people say that movement's noisy, and it is kind of noisy, but I like the Miyota 90-15. In my experience, and I'm sure this isn't for everybody, in my experience, it's always been a little bit more accurate than a Seiko movement. I don't think it's regulated. I've probably just gotten lucky. The dial is easy to read, and I like that I guess you could say the dial's a homage to the Submariner. To me it is, but it isn't. This watch is kind of its own thing, especially with the pip. There's no triangle, there's no anything. It's the loom pip. It's got a nice sign crown here at 4 o'clock. The crown is very easy to manipulate. You can grab it. It has a little bit of play when it's all the way pulled out, but it doesn't have like Orient play. Orient, their crowns, that's like a sticking point for me with an Orient. That's one thing that does bother me, is I don't like how much wiggle room there is when that crown's pulled out. It bothers me. The watch is relatively thin. It wears nice on the wrist. I like the way that these lugs kind of like jet down toward the wrist. It hugs it nicely. And the watch, it's not top heavy to me. When I put it on, it stays right where I put it. And I like that about it. The only thing I wish that I initially was under the impression that the bracelet, sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over. I was under the initial impression that the bracelet, I thought these were screws, but come to find out they're push pins, which no big deal. I guess I assumed that falsely for the fact that the bracelet and the clasp to me are very Steinhardt, I guess, in nature. So when I saw that, I just initially figured, oh, it must be screw pins, when in fact it is not. The blue coloring, I like the coloring of this. I don't know, it's an aqua blue and a deep blue. It plays with the light pretty well. The dial itself, see if you can see how it just kind of changes. I got my thumbprints all over it. But I like the way that the watch looks, and it feels like a good quality watch. It feels good and solid. The bezel feels solid. The bracelet feels solid. Everything about this watch, to me, for the money, it feels like a really good watch. But I'm also a big fan of of the Notice. I haven't got my hands on a Contrail 39 yet. I would like to, but the retrospect I had, I liked. I'm kind of liking the micro brands, especially when it has a common, most of them, almost all of them have a normal common movement, a Seiko NH35, a 9015, an ETA of some variant, which makes it nice because if anything goes wrong, I have a watchmaker 15 minutes from my house that can take care of that. I do like that it has a flat sapphire. Dome sapphires look neat, but in practice, for me, everyday wear, I want a flat sapphire. It's easier for me to read. The distortion is neat on a dome, I guess, but at the same time, I don't want any distortion. I want it nice, clean, and easy to read. The date aperture on this one is at the 3 o'clock. And it matches up decent with the 9 as far as it doesn't look out of place to me where they cut it in. And this one's easy for me to read. Usually when the date wheel, or the date disc, whichever you want to call it, is the same color as the dial, it's a little bit more difficult for me to read. This one isn't. This one stands out really nice. It's just easy for me to see even without my glasses. I don't really need glasses for much, but if I'm reading a lot, I wear them. But even without my glasses at arm's length, I can see it. But my wrist, I don't know. Rob, I think, has like a 7 1/4. Maybe mine might be a little over that. Let's see if I can. So for me, even with the way that the bracelet is designed, which I'll get into in a second, it sits nice on my wrist and it hugs the wrist real nicely. But what I was going to mention about the bracelet, generally, I prefer, and so do a lot of other people, when this, when your center link here falls right off like a Steinhardt bracelet would. So when I first saw this, I thought, I wonder if it's going to wear big, and surprisingly to me, it didn't. It was exactly kind of what I expected it to be, except with the long lug to lug, I didn't expect it to hug the wrist as well as it does. But with the way these come down, it wears really well. I have a couple more things that I'm going to be reviewing in the next few days, so I'll post a few more videos. But if you can find one of these Portus Cales, I don't know how many colors they came in. I want to say like 5 different color variations. But if you can pick up any of these, if you like a micro brand, or if you just want a good solid watch for not a lot of money, I've had Swiss watches that this probably, in my opinion, feels and is finished probably as good as my Certina DS Action Diver, which, I mean, that's like a tier 1 Swiss watch, I guess, if you want to use a tier system for it, entry level. And I like it, and it's built really well. But for the micro brands, I think this is a good watch. I really enjoy it, and I think if you can, you should pick one up. Thanks for watching.